Good morning and welcome to the University of Maryland School of Social Work New Building Town Hall. Please note that this town hall is being viewed live via Zoom. To our in-house audience, when the time comes for Q&A, please raise your hand and a microphone will be brought to you. Using the microphone ensures the virtual audience can hear you. And to our virtual audience, please write your question in the chat feature, and when the time comes, I'll ask you to unmute your mic and ask your question. Once again, welcome.
Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Anna Borgerding. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Facilities and Operations, and on behalf of the project team, I'm really excited to show you some project details today. It's my pleasure to introduce our Provost and Executive Vice President, Dr. Roger Ward, who will be giving our opening remarks.
Good morning. I look forward to the day when I could only walk a couple of feet to get to the School of Social Work. New building. For some reason, I thought this was on my calendar for 11:30, and Leilani, who's my administrative coordinator, knocks on my door. She's like, "You gotta go." I'm like, "Go where?" To School of Social Work. I'm like, "I got time." And so, I'm like, "No." So I did get up this morning and work out, so I feel like this was a second. But really, it's a pleasure to be here. It's always great to be in the School of Social Work space. I've been here on any number of occasions for different reasons. But this is truly perhaps the most remarkable of reasons to be here. If you were with us last night at the State of the University address, I'm sure you would have heard President Gerald talk about the importance of vibrancy to this campus. You would have heard him talk about the plans for the north side of campus, which is where we reside. The cool folks reside on the south side, and then the administrative types have traditionally resided on the encampment to the north. And we have for a long time, going back to when President Pullman was here, always aspired to having the vibrancy that exists on the south side of campus migrate northwards. And so we have, to that end, been working on doing some of that work. If you do some of the walking from the School of Dentistry to Saratoga, you would notice more connectivity just in the way the landscaping and the walkways and so on. And so for a long time, one of the other things we have aspired to do is putting one of our most prominent academic programs on the north side. The graduate school is on the north side, but it shares the Lexington building with information technology, HR, and others, and it doesn't have a physical presence in and of itself on the north side. So in thinking about which of the programs we would desire to have up there, social work has always been one of the top candidates for that. And so through the efforts of many, many people, that is certainly going to be realized with the new School of Social Work. Given what Bruce talked about, President Gerald talked about last night, I think it should be obvious that this new building, the school's presence on Lexington, on the north side, is going to be the anchor to the vibrancy and everything else that flows from that. And so we're really, really very happy that this is finally occurring. Bruce talked a little bit about how the building is going to be heated and cooled and all that stuff, and I'm sure he's going to get into that. So it's also blazing trails in that regard as well. I'll be candid, just as I always am. One of the questions we get often is, how is that building going to be animated and brought to life? You know, things have changed since COVID. People, remote work, telework, right? People don't come into the offices and to classes as much in the same way as they used to pre-COVID. And we've heard from state officials, legislators, and others who have committed the resources to build this building, how are you going to ensure that that building is animated, is lively, has the impact you think it's going to have and you need it to have on the north side of campus and on Lexington Street and the surrounding community? And our response, usually that's the dean's job to figure out. But really, it's our collective responsibility to make sure that we deliver on what we presented to those who have been supportive of this project from its inception. From a leadership perspective, we are very, very excited about the project and will continue to support it in every way, shape, and form. But we will depend on you, the faculty, the staff, and the students from social work to really now make it a reality and make it happen. I want to compliment Dean Postmus and her team for having these types of sessions to allow the social work community the opportunity to have a hand in curating what this new space looks like and feels like. I don't think, and I'm now in my 15th year at the university, I'm trumped by people like Mark Reynolds and Jennifer Lichman and others who, what are you, in your 35th, 36th year? However long it's been, the folks have been here way longer than I have been, but certainly in my 15 years here, we brought up and built, as Bruce talked about also last night, over the last 30 years, a number of projects. But I don't think we have seen any school or any leader for any such project engage in this type of process in terms of transparency and community engagement. But what would you expect from a school of social work, right? And so we certainly are grateful for Judy for leading the effort in the way she is. And again, we look forward to supporting her in her role in making this a reality for us. So thank you all for coming out and for engaging. And I too look forward to the ongoing conversations about the project.
So thank you, Roger, for that warm welcome, and welcome. I'm so excited that you all are here and those who are joining us remotely to learn about this fabulous new building we are getting. And we're just giving you a little tease for those in the room. Do you need to stay here? We'd love to have you sit there. You won't be able to see the slides then. So for those of you in the room, we're getting a taste of, what construction life might be like. I don't know if those at home can hear it, but the hospital is doing some major renovations, and today's construction is really loud. And it's we can actually feel the shaking in the room. And Krishna, I'm glad we relocated you and Isabel from those offices. So I just want to go briefly about some of the things that, before I turn it over to Stephen, our architect, who's really going to talk about the building. This was what was guiding me and the others on the team as far as the goals and what we really wanted to accomplish with the creation of this building. We needed obviously an educational building that supported our innovative instruction and collaborations. We wanted flexibility. I think I said the word flexibility, I don't know, every meeting at least multiple times. And transitional spaces. We wanted to have research spaces to have functional flexibility, also to support the ebb and flow of research and the changing of work habits. We wanted to make sure the building was warm and welcoming for our community and to be engaging and inclusive with our community. We wanted to address equity and accessibility, making sure that our spaces are inclusive and that we're serving the needs of our entire student body and the community. We wanted to have efficient and effective systems in place to help us maintain our financial stewardship with maintaining the building. And we also wanted to set the standard for best practices in education in a high quality space. And lately we've been talking about we want to be the best building on campus. Sorry, Mark, the best school on campus as far as our building is concerned. And then finally, we wanted to ensure that we address some environmental justice as a way that our school also, and social work also values. I'm looking at daylight, making sure that we have renewable energy and reducing our carbon footprint. So these have been some of the goals and mission has been driving how we've created this building. And as Roger mentioned, we try to be as inclusive as possible. So we have had 18 constituent groups, over 8 workshops totaling over 60 hours of folks participating and giving their thoughts and opinions. We had a town hall in November where 133 people attended, and we posted those videos, if I'm not mistaken, on the website. That's part, if you go to the university main website and just search for School of Social Work Building, you'll get to that website. We had 123 participants in presentations and small group discussions throughout this past year. 176 responses to surveys, opportunities for people, if they didn't want to go to a meeting, they could give their thoughts in writing. We had 58 participants in any Q&As that we offered. And then we also invited 18 participants who were part of the design development subcommittees, looking at all access spaces, student spaces, faculty and staff spaces, and specialty spaces. So, and it's interesting that Roger mentioned that no other program whose school that's developed has done this much inclusivity. And it is something that even our design team had to get used to. I'm like, no, we have to include. No, we have to include. No, we have to. We can't just do. And so I'm excited that we had as many opportunities as possible. Again, given different forums, different times for people who want to contribute, want to have a say, want to have a voice heard. There's opportunities for that to happen. So some things that are coming up as we present the design, we'll be moving pretty soon into the construction phase, but we're also creating a new committee called the Public Art Committee, and you can see the membership there. This is because this is state funding, we are using some of that funding is going towards the Maryland State Arts Council, in which we will be commissioning an artist to create some artwork piece, either inside or outside the building, that really reflects who we are as a profession and as a school. Really looking forward to being involved with this process. It is a pretty intense process, and one of the steps during this process is, I believe, once we choose or come down to maybe 1 or 2 finalists, that they hold town halls with the community to get their thoughts about what should be in the arts. So I'm excited about that process, and stay tuned for more information. You can see we have a number of folks participating from our school, and I chuckled and I said, I am not a really strong artist, but I was told I had to be there. So I'm excited to be there, but I'm surrounding myself with lots of other people who are very strong in art and understand what good art looks like. And then finally, I just want to talk about the schedule. We began this design back in spring of 2023, so about a year ago. A lot of meetings and things happened this past year. We are here today. We're looking at an October 17th groundbreaking ceremony day this fall. We plan or hope to move in, we're all knocking on wood, in summer of 2027. Hopefully they won't find an underground river that they found in dentistry when they did that. Wow, okay, and that we're hope to have a complete opening and inviting folks to come in and see our brand new facility in the fall of 2027. And we are also looking at having lots of conversations in the next year or 2 with our community who work in this building, because you're right, work has changed. And what will work look like in a couple of years, I don't know. And I don't know, as the school grows, we might not necessarily grow with lots of students, but we definitely, I'm hoping, will grow with more grants and contracts and research and needing space to host those staff. And so we're going to be having a lot of conversations. Those of you who work in the school, we're going to be having a lot of conversations about what does that mean and what do we expect of each other as far as creating that vibrancy here in the school, along with between faculty and staff and the rest of the UMB community, along with our students, our graduate and PhD students. So stay tuned for those conversations as we move forward over the next few years. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful architect.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. It's a real privilege to speak about this project and share it with you. And I have to thank Judy and her team for their guidance and leadership all the way through, as well as Anna and the facilities team. They've been a great bunch of people to work with. And we want to talk a little bit about what is this project going to look like, and what's it going to be like inside and out. So we're going to share that. So first off, we'll take a look at where the project is located on campus. You'll notice there's a red box, project site. It's between Green Street and Pearl Street, just north of Lexington. And we think the north side of campus is going to be a wonderful and vibrant place. We'd ask you to note the building north for the Department of Health and Human Services is being reoccupied, so that's not going to be a ghost town anymore. Lexington Market is new up there. We have the Metro, we have light rail. We have 3 parking lots around this building, which will be very convenient for folks that drive. And this building will be oriented with actually there's an open space right along Lexington Street where there's currently a post office that is in the process of being planned to be relocated. And I'll just go to a picture of the site, and you see here on the left-hand side the School of Social Work site, which is about half of that block that's now vacant and empty. The post office is just to the south. That is going to be moved away, and a public park is going to be created in the front yard. That's really going to create a wonderful sort of forecourt for the School of Social Work. And this is really going to be a very vibrant redevelopment of a site that's empty now. And we like the fact that it's really on the northern side of campus because the School of Social Work, part of their mission is to reach out and be a bridge to the community as well. So you're part of the campus, but you're also part of the community. And we think this can be a really good opportunity. So with that said, this is a first aerial view of what the building looks like on the site. And one of our first ideas was that we wanted to create a sort of a handshake of different materials that came together that formed the building. And so there's a solid piece, we call it exterior wall system number 2, that's sort of a solid piece, and then there's a glassy piece that is exterior wall system number 1. That's our architect speak for the way we clad the building. And there'll be 2 materials that are going to come together that are going to create a handshake. And again, that's a little bit a metaphor for the mission of the School of Social Work as well. But you start to see here that the building has a bit of a shape and a form to it that's a little bit special and different. And we thought about that a lot because, here we are on Green Street looking north, and we said, the UMB campus, there's a lot of buildings that feel just a little more institutional. There are medical research buildings, there are sort of, medical buildings and things like that. And we wanted the School of Social Work to feel like it's part of the campus. We want to recognize it as being consistent with the other buildings on campus, but we wanted it to have a little bit of an individual character that would be a little bit different too, because there is a softer, more humanist sort of approach to the work that's done here, and that should be reflective of the building. And so we're seeing a building here that is clad in red with a combination of brick and terracotta, and it's here on the side. And it also has these sort of rounded corners, and it wraps around, and it's a little more sinuous in its shape. And we think that's going to really give it a distinctive character, and it's going to be recognizable as an icon for this school, and really be something that's known across the city. You see here how in the lower left-hand side, there's a dotted in sort of white box. That's where that post office is today that's going to go away so that we can create this big park in the front. And I'll show you a couple more views of the outside, and then we'll go inside. So one of the other things that we did is that we set the building back just a little bit from West Lexington, and we have a base layer, and the base of the podium of the building has a lot of the assembly and the outreach spaces down at the base, and then we have more office and administrative spaces up above that. And we took advantage of that to create a little roof garden up at the second floor level so that there would be a private outdoor space that would be a place people could use and relax and go out and enjoy. And we like the fact that we have outdoor space at multiple scales. We got the park in front. We have a little bit of area of landscaping in front of the building that's actually part of our rainwater recharge and stormwater management. It's very important. We always think about those things nowadays. And then we also have a more private garden area up above that'll be for the use of the School of Social Work and also for the campus. And so this is what that garden area would look like up above. And you'll notice there's a sort of a curvy glass wall, and there's a big mural on that behind. That's one of the locations that we have suggested where we might build do the public art installation, because it'd be highly visible both inside and outside. It'd be a really great opportunity for the school to do something visible. And so here we're north of the building on Green Street looking down, because we know that Green Street is one way south, so most people are going to actually see this side of the building. It is not the back, right? Because this is where people are driving by, and that's what they're going to see. And so you get the sense of the sculptural shape. And we were very deliberate to keep the building sort of regular to the streets on the two sides, on Green Street and Pearl Street, because we didn't want to do a building that was divorced from the city. We wanted to do a building that respected the streetways and the flow of traffic and the directionality of the city, but then we also wanted it to have a little bit of shape to it as well. And so we had a little more fun with the north and the south side while keeping the building really plugged into the city with this sculptural shape. And we have some two-story spaces on these corners here that are actually faculty lounges for interaction for the folks that work up on the upper levels. They have these kitchen interaction lounges that join two floors together. And so let's go forward, and then front door, and with using the same language of the corners that wrap around that create this sort of smooth surface. We just wrap this down in, and you can see going into the building. There's a few steps up on the front, and there's a sloped sidewalk that comes in from the side for people that have disabilities. And so there's entries actually from the Green Street and Lexington corner, and there's also another entry down below from the Pearl Street and Lexington corner. And with that, I think we're going to go inside the building. And so if you come in those doors that you just saw, you would come into this area where we have a large lobby and pre-function area with the assembly room that is off on the right-hand side here. We have big doors that are open to it. Those doors can all be closed. But it's essentially this room that is right off the lobby. But what we've done is we're going to make the room flat floor. We're not going to do the gradient seating because it makes it much more flexible for different types of use if it doesn't have that tiered seating nowadays. And what we want to have the lobby area connect directly to it and right to the front door. And it's also going to connect to windows out on the other side. And we want this to be a vibrant hub that students can use throughout the day. And it's really the heart of the school down there. And there are some classrooms on this that are on the level of below this that are open to that. And I'll show you there. We're going to look at a couple more views. So here we've just walked towards the south, towards that park, towards Lexington Street, and it comes down below, and there are classrooms down here. There are actually 2 classrooms and 2 computer classrooms, and then there's a student lounge area down below. And this is intended to be really a student hub for the building. We also have student services and a kitchenette for students and a little lending library for textbooks. And so a lot of things that students use will be in this area, and they'll be really embraced at the heart of the building, very visible. And you'll notice there's a staircase that comes down. It has that same sort of fluid shape. And then there's another one that goes up, and that one that goes up gets to that roof terrace that I just showed you a couple minutes ago. Here we're looking from the end back towards the entry door from Green Street, and we see the stairs coming up and down. We see the assembly space on the left-hand side, and we have a big window looking out to that future park along Lexington Street to the south. Here I've gone back into that assembly room, and so it's a room very similar in size to this one. It is divisible. We're going to have it dividable into a smaller and a larger half. The purple is just an idea. We have not chosen the interior finishes. And well, I'll tell you that I told the rest of the team, I'm actually from Baltimore. I said, well, if you can choose a color, it's got to be purple. That's where you start. And then you think about what the color should actually be. But what else would you start, right? Orange, you could have chose orange. I'll admit, yeah. But those were the 2 choices, right? So, but it's the idea that we're going to do a room. We're thinking about a wood floor. We're thinking about a ceiling that's a little more special with open baffles. We're going to make it a really nice room that functions both for events and for activities, and it can also function as a large classroom area for larger groups, and it can function for events and outreach. You can welcome people to the school. Our hope is that we make a room that's so wonderful that a lot of people want to use it, and the problem the School of Social Work will have will be that other people want to come and use that room too because it's such a nice room. I mean, that's. So, question about the capacity of the room, and with tables and chairs, I think we're at about 140, 150, and we get up about 270 if we just had seats and no tables. So, and we do have furniture storage and those sorts of things, so we can move the furniture around and set it up for different configurations for different activities. That's really the intention. So, and one of the other things that we're going to add that has gotten a lot of excitement, I'll have to admit, right? Yeah, there we go. Because one of the fundamental missions of this project is to make a wonderful place that people want to come back to work, right? Because as Provost said, we live in a different world now, and a lot of people can work from home, and they can work from home quite nicely. We want to make a building where we really favor interaction and community, where people come together to work together. Because if you're really only going to work from home, work by yourself, you kind of can work from home just as well as you can work in the office. And so we put a coffee shop right in that lobby. It's because we want people to come in and feel like it's a great place to be, and they're happy to be there. They want to get their cup of coffee. They want to talk to their colleagues, and they want to get about their workday. And so then this is one of those faculty lounges that's on the northeast corner. There's a whole series of office spaces that are around this with enclosed offices and open workstations, a combination, some meeting rooms, and then these rooms will look out northward back up to the city. And we're thinking about a little green wall installation and things like that so that people look in and see something that represents a desire for a more sustainable future. And with that, I will just mention some of the initiatives that are in this. This building is intended to be the most sustainable building on the campus, as it should be. It's the new building, right? And we should do it right. And so one of the things we're talking about, the whole rooftop, what you see here is solar PV on top of a green roof. So what we do is we lay down a green roof, and the green roof helps with absorbing stormwater, helps managing water quality relative to Chesapeake Bay runoff. And then we have solar panels above that generate a good portion of the electricity needed for the building. And then we're also talking about using bird-safe glass with the little dots on it so that the birds see it and they don't fly into the windows to reduce that. We're talking about using a high-performance envelope with triple glazing. We're talking about using geo-exchange, which is essentially we're going to drill a whole series of holes down into the ground, 500 feet deep underneath the building, and we're going to use that as a heat source to pump water in and out so that we can heat and cool the building via the natural heat that's in the earth using refrigeration equipment. And then we have a series of microbiome retention areas and to manage stormwater runoff. And our intention is that this will be a LEED net zero energy building. So it really is going to be a big landmark for the school going forward, and it's going to set a good standard, which we think is very important. And with that, we have time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you all for bearing with us in the construction noise. Appreciate that. It's not our project. Just want to put that out there.
No, we would make it much more quiet, actually, if it was our project.
So first thoughts, did you like it?
Okay.
That's good. Well, not again.
Yeah,
That's a good start.
we have one question online right now. It's a beautiful building, but there is a concern of safety with all the glass windows. In case there's an emergency, what precautions have been taken?
So I'll speak a little bit about this, and I'm sure Stephen can also help. At different levels of our building, the glass is tempered, different variations, and that's with all of our buildings on campus. And so we take into consideration, the use around our building and also uses within our building. Right, there's streets around those buildings, and so there are ways that we can provide a buffer. If you noticed in some of those exterior photos, there are more tree pits around this building than others, not tree pits, but actual trees. And there's a wider sidewalk, right, to provide buffers from, the roadway. But as far as the glass, safety concerns and whatnot, there are different levels of, gradients of glass and used at different variations throughout the building.
And I would just say, it's a real concern in our modern day and age. We always think in building design in terms of the principles of flee, hide, fight, right? That's the hierarchy of things you hope you never have to do, right? And so we're always thinking about ways that people can exit, having multiple ways to exit a building, having locations that are where people can go that are safe refuges within the building, and and hopefully through those, one never gets to the third of those options. But it is something we take into account. We don't do it so much that we would sort of close off the windows and stuff, because we think that the interaction between the school and your mission and the surrounding community is really iconic for what you do, and we have to embrace the surrounding community, and then we have to do it in a smart and clever way, and make sure we're thoughtful that we provide safe refuges for folks, through the design process.
Hold on for the mic. I'm coming.
Thank you. It's clear that you've been very thoughtful throughout the process in considering the needs of the school and the city and the university. I have a question about flow, because in the School of Dentistry building, I'm sorry to say this, I don't think that it flows very well. There's a lot of narrow hallways with offices and like a lot of doors, and like it just doesn't feel like a space that can be like, you can find things easily. Can you talk about the process for like, ensuring there's like a good flow in the building?
Well, I'll speak about this a little bit. Because we didn't show all of the workplace floors and we didn't show everything, but what we've tried to do is always combine some open workplace areas with workstations or with interaction spaces along with corridors. So we try to limit the number of like hallways with doors on them, because they're just a little bit sad as environments. People go in their office and they close the door a little bit. I'm sorry, I don't mean to touch third rails. My team is saying don't let him speak, but we always we want to have a building where light penetrates deep into the building. So we've tried to organize so that the open office areas all have access to light. It's not just the perimeter offices that get the light and the folks that don't get an office get a dark place in the middle. We tried to sort of prioritize putting the workstations around the outside and having open space between offices so that everybody feels like they're in a large community together. And I will say that the downside of that is there's always a balance between community and privacy. And we've heard a lot in the school that folks really do value their privacy too. And so we want to be sensitive to the acoustic separations of walls and partitions, so that when people do need to do quiet heads down work, they have a place that really favors that also. But it's really that balance of trying to sort of both have open spaces that foster community and let light into the building, and also have private spaces for private work.
We also, one of the things that I appreciated about the design, so while we created all the offices for faculty and staff are all the same size with the exception of associate dean and the dean's office, we created a number of meeting spaces, everything from, they call it a telephone room, which is a one-person room that you can go in and have a private conversation by yourself with somebody else. There's huddle rooms where it's a couple of people, there's small conference rooms, medium conference rooms, large conference rooms, and they just get bigger and bigger as time goes on. And what I liked about this openness of the hallways is that, if I'm not mistaken, every hallway, at the end of every hallway is a huddle room.
Yeah.
So you can see outside whenever you're in a hallway. It's never a closed, dark hallway. There's always light coming in that you can, and know where you're going because of those lights. Other questions?
Yes, we have a question in the virtual audience. With accessibility being a concern, especially during times of construction, have measurements been taken to account for accessibility during construction? And then also with the new furniture and things like that, is there a possibility for accessibility able furniture, things of that nature?
Yes, thanks. So our project manager, Mike, he's in the audience here. He works with our construction manager, who's Whiting Turner, on this project, and they have a whole construction site plan that is thought out throughout before the construction starts. And so while we are advocating for those who park along Lexington to park in the garage, if you don't already, we don't want you to be impacted. But they will be working mostly within that site. They have to do some utility work. So accessibility, there won't be accessibility to the construction site, but we will make sure that it is safe. Now, as far as accessibility, the building itself has many features regarding accessibility. We have a ramp into the main entrance, and there are certain requirements. But we've also talked about furniture specifically. All desks will be able to adjust, and that could be, there's different heights. Everyone has different, needs, and so we'll make sure that that is an accessible feature, as well as some other, we have a prayer space, meditation space in the building for anyone. We also have a lactation space. There will be bike rack and showers for anyone to utilize. And so we've thought about really not just the school, but also the campus. How can we serve the campus and make this more accessible, not just with the coffee lounge, but also, right, what are these amenities that others, maybe in neighboring buildings, Lexington and Saratoga, that, have a need and could utilize as well.
And certainly one of the things that I've been pushing is that, yes, buildings will always have ADA compliance because that is the standard, that's what they have to do. And I'm like, we need to do more than compliance. We need to really, from a disability justice lens, really think differently about what that looks like. So that includes the furniture and what that looks and how that can be accommodating. And so I think when we move forward, one of the committees that will be formed later this year is going to be a furniture committee, and my hope is that folks who have that lens of disability justice will volunteer to be on that committee to really help in picking which furniture, what type of furniture we're looking for, not just the offices but the conference rooms and the open spaces, and I mean there's a lot of obviously different spaces and different furniture needs that are going to be there.
I have a quick follow-up question for that from Jesse in the virtual audience. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic, or go ahead and unmute your mic and ask your question.
Hi, thank you guys so much. So my question is actually, as a social work graduate student with a disability who uses either a walker or wheelchair, I often, in the interior, I can't get through the doors. So I know with the front door, there's, the handicap thing you can press. I can get through there. But once I'm in the building, if people aren't around, like if I don't have students around or I'm there by myself, it is really hard for me to open a door on my own and then like push through it. So that's a consideration that would be like, I love that you guys are considering things like prayer room, coffee, things like that. I literally need to be able to get like in and out of the classrooms or the bathroom. And that's been a huge barrier for me. So do you have any plans for that, or could you speak to that a little bit?
I know that I've been thinking about doors as somebody who also has challenges with heavy doors, in the sense that we need to make sure that doors can be open with a button. We need to make sure that doors can be open, that they're not too heavy for somebody to push. I mean, there's different ways. And I think that those conversations, as we think about what's the final look and how do we want this set up, those are the kind of observations. So thank you for bringing this up, that we need to figure out how do we make this be accessible for everybody. We do have two entrances, as Stephen mentioned. The main entrance, you saw the ramp coming up. There's another entrance on the lower level. I think what Stephen didn't mention is that the building is on a grade. So the lower level is not floor one. Floor one is the main entrance, but there's another level. On one side, the Pearl Street side, there'll be windows. On the Green Street side, it's just wall because it's underground. And so that's that level that you have there. So even on the lower level by the Pearl Street side will be another entrance, also will be handicapped accessible. We also made sure that there was more than one elevator in the building. So we have two elevators for everybody, and then we also have a third elevator in the back that is for the freight elevator, and it's very large to be able to, if we need to bring things in and so forth. So there'll be a little bit more, instead of having to wait for one elevator to constantly go up and down the flights and go to different floors.
I appreciate that perspective, and I know Mike is taking notes, and so we'll be able to utilize that as we're navigating and putting in these further details throughout the rest of the design.
Hello, I had a quick question about the exterior building signage. So the signage at the top of the building, is it backlit? And are we moving away from incorporating the Davidge Hall icon on new buildings as we continue to build?
So I will say the signage has not been 100% complete. We're still in talks with communications regarding the signage and what that will say. There is a new Green Street sign as you're coming down Green Street that, has a brick and says the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and there is the Davidge icon there. So I can't say that we're going away from that. It was just there on the rendering, but that is still one of those details that's getting worked out.
Yeah, it's really a placeholder because we want to think about it ahead of time because we know that a sign's going to come. We don't know what it's going to say yet. But if we don't think about or where are some places around the building where that's going to really work, then we might not leave a place or have an obvious place to put it. Yeah. So that's where we are in the process now. And everything advances from sort of ideas to placeholders to refining the image to making it real. And we're in that journey.
Another question?
Hi, with all of the design with the windows and the daylight coming in and the high-low areas, has there been any consideration to the environmental impact of like the cleanability and the constant cleaning that we'll have to do to make those areas look nice?
I'm incredibly proud to say that throughout the whole design process, our environmental services group has been involved throughout the whole process, and the building will also provide an office space for our environmental services management team. And so throughout all of these, we've had many conversations about maintenance, and that includes cleaning and also safety. When we talk about accessibility to some of the design meetings we've talked about, how do we get a toter cart through there if they're collecting recycling and trash, and really just making sure the building works for everyone, not just for a certain group of individuals. So I really appreciate your comment about the cleaning. We do have many windows on our campus, and depending on the facade and whatnot, and we did look into, okay, what do those finishes look like, and particularly floor care and whatnot. So we will take that into account, as well as understanding when we turn the building over, what then is that cleaning regimen for those spaces.
And we just started talking about what's going on the floors.
Yeah.
I mean, because carpeting is so hard to keep clean, right? Even though it also absorbs sound. And so we've been talking about what are some other options we can use, and that if you spill something, that it's easy to clean up. It's, so these are all conversations that are ongoing. And, while this design we're done with this particular phase of the project, there's still so much more work that has to be done before we actually move in.
Got a few more questions on the virtual audience. Will the coffee shop be accessible to the public, non-student faculty?
So I will say what is great about that coffee lounge area is that we have yet to be determined how that will be operated. We know that Student Affairs Group on campus operates the current shops on our campus, like in the campus center and other areas. So we have still yet to be determined. I know that the dean has some thoughts on a workforce development program, using that for staffing that and providing that. I would say that yes, it would be open to the public as we have most of our ones on campus are. So, but that has yet to be determined, but we're looking forward to it.
Great. I got another question. With the open office areas, which is beautiful, accounting for staff who primarily work a lot via Zoom and doing virtual meetings, how are we considering the acoustics in the open space?
Well, I'll speak to some of that. I mean, we do have acousticians on board as part of the team, and I just mentioned, I get to speak about the project, but it's a pretty large team that puts this together with a lot of specialists that really address different things. But we're thinking about making sure we have appropriately absorptive surfaces for acoustics so that it's a quiet environment. And we're also thinking about having these rooms available, like these phone rooms and little huddle rooms and things like that, that people that have open workspaces can go and use sometimes when they have meetings. So, if every situation will be a little bit different, but we want to have multiple responses to that concern, because that's going to happen in a variety of ways. There'll be times when somebody will say, "Oh, I'm on Zooms all day. I really want to reserve this phone room and go sit in here and do all my Zooms from there." There'll be other times when somebody will say, "I'll just have a meeting here, and there's not too many people in today. I'm comfortable to do it at my desk." Though it will be a variety of different answers, and part of the answer is always technology. I use noise canceling headbuds or earbuds, and I'm kind of amazed at how they allow me to do Zooms everywhere all the time. So there's a variety of different responses. Yeah.
Thank you. I just had a follow-up to that. Actually, the Center for Restorative Change, when we renovated our space, we had in the design included a white noise machine that went throughout the open spaces. Have you all had a chance to take a look at that? Because I do think that was a nice option for the open workspaces.
It's a great idea.
It's a great idea, and I think that as we get to this next phase, that's one of the options that we'll look at. Because it works in tandem with the finishes in the room, so that things are both absorptive and masking both together. So that's sort of the level of technical study that we're going to engage in now.
And certainly, we're working closely with our IT department and with SITS, with the university, around the technology that needs to be available in all the rooms, not just the offices, but also any of the meeting spaces. I'm pleased to say we've got a couple of rooms, classrooms that they'll be pretty high tech, and we have quite a number, six somewhere, of rooms where students could be doing a role play or something, and the information beamed over to a class that can be part of that process. So we're excited about those interactive labs. And so I think that there's still a lot of possibilities, but even questions like when they showed me the design of the auditorium, and I'm like, so where are the electrical outlets? And that was like, oh. So I think those are the kind of questions of how do we, it's not only the electrical outlets in the offices, but in any of those open spaces, because as you know, while we all use technology, we also need electricity to run that technology. So keep those ideas coming, because there might be something that we haven't thought about, and we need to keep thinking about those things.
So one of the things you mentioned, Anna, was that we will be sharing the building with EVS. And so could you talk about, well, probably why, or explain that decision a little bit? And should we expect that we will be sharing future spaces if we're not utilizing the space that we have?
Sure. So when we this project started probably in 2015, or maybe even a little earlier. The university goes through a capital planning process, right? And so when we go through that, we submit information to the Department of Budget and Management regarding enrollment and space needs, and we have all of that in our inventory of our space, right? And so when we had submitted information this year, we didn't need as many classrooms as when we had previously submitted. And so we took that opportunity to say, okay, what else do we need on campus? Because this is a shared physical asset, right? And our assets should be used to align with how do we meet our mission and our strategic goals. And so we had identified that this group, and our environmental services group, who's on campus every day and who many of us rely upon to create a safe and healthy environment, didn't have enough office space for that management team. And so we were able to provide them space on that Pearl Street level. They have their own little entrance, and they're able to be part of the building, and the dean was welcoming for that group. I will say, as a campus, we are evaluating space utilization and as a whole, right? And how do we utilize space as we talk about the future of work and whatnot, and really coming to understand how can we better utilize space so that it is more vibrant, right? And does that include, making more spaces that are easier to hotel in? Right now, we have a lot of buildings that have designated offices, right? And not a lot of like hoteling. And I know Ballinger, they all work in open offices, right? And so they have really shared their story too about how does that actually work and how do they operationalize that. So I do know that we're evaluating that across the campus, not any one individual school. And it's important for us to use our physical assets to the best of our abilities. So we will be evaluating that over time and working with schools and units who, there's this natural ebb and flow of growth. And so really making sure that we're aligning our physical assets with those goals that we're achieving.
Okay, I've got a two-part question. Is there a plan for proper maintenance of the roof garden? Natural spaces can be challenging to maintain and keep nice. And then the second part is, what's going to happen with the current building that we sit in right now?
So I wonder if that came from a maintenance technician who's asking about the roof garden. So yes, you're right. Proper maintenance of those gardens and really the foliage and the trees that are on those gardens really take an expert. And so we are looking into the maintenance of that and providing that contract right for the school and making sure that we are keeping it up. Our goal was to have a really good green roof on our campus. We have some, but not really any that many people can enjoy. And so that was one of our goals. So yes, that is being taken into account. And the second question is, what is happening to this building? And for those of you who had heard the construction outside, that's for the hospital's addition. And we think that they're very interested in the building. And so our hope is to engage them in that conversation.
By the way, even the how to maintain, I've had questions about that as well. In fact, one point I'm like, so are we bringing lawnmowers up the elevator? Is that how we're going to cut the? So even what kind of material goes on the green roof is going to be, a different decision, because again, and I've also learned as a dean that anything outside the building is the responsibility of Anna's shop. Anything inside the building is my responsibility. And so if you saw that green wall, we would have to contract with an outside vendor who would come in and maintain that on a weekly basis, which other places on campus have successfully done so. So they're not going to put something in that they can't maintain. I do know that. So
no grass on the green room.
Well, speaking of green spaces, any green space that is alongside Lexington Street, will that be taken care of by the school, the university, or will be taken care of by the city? So currently there's a green park there right now where I think the building is planning to go.
it's the front part of the post office, which is
The front part of the post office will be a green
yes.
space?
We do not, UMB does not currently own the plot of land where the post office is. So if that's the space that they're talking about, then that's not current. We are in talks with them, but we do not currently own that. That's owned by the federal government. There are spaces. We do have a Clean Campus Ambassadors crew of about 12, and they do clean all of our exterior spaces around campus and even a little further out. And so you'll probably see them around. They have like a cerulean blue shirt and vests, and so you'll see them. They clean our Plaza Park and all of our other green spaces on campus. But when so, the management of that property, then that would become UMB owned and maintained.
I think in every meeting I asked what's going on with the post office. Where are we with the post office? Have we made any movement with the post office? Because I really want to see that green space, because one, it'll make a beautiful entrance to our building, but even more importantly, there's not a lot of green space in downtown Baltimore. And so really wanting to make sure that it's nice green space. The university's also talking about behind our building, on the north side of the campus, or on the north side of the building, we'll have that, you won't be able to see it, but we'll have all the big containers for the garbage and the recycling and things like that. But they've been talking about the space that's behind that new gateway, brick gateway that they built, that there's going to be some space before our building, and that has not been assigned yet to figure out what's going to go there. And so we had talked about, well, could we put, gardens? Can we have wildflower gardens? So there's still some conversation about what's going to go behind there. Again, with the hope of not just having, slabs of cement, but having something that others, not just our school, but others can enjoy as well, including the Department of Health, who will be moving into that, the old SSA building.
I've got one more question just came in. With 2 entrances instead of 1 currently, and the public potentially using the cafe, what will security look like at both access points?
Yeah. Yes. So many of our buildings have multiple entrances. Not all of them are public entrances. And so that second entrance that the dean was talking about on Pearl Street, that will be card access only. The entrance for our EVS staff will also be card access only. And there is one main entrance for the public to come in. So that would be the one that they would need to use. We have engaged our Chief of Police, Tom Leone, and his team, as well as our Office of Emergency Management throughout this design process to talk about safety and security and camera locations and their plan to ensure that they are positioned in the right spots in our building and can properly survey what's going on within the building.
One more question. Yeah. I was just wondering if that parking lot in the back will still be there, and is it accessible to us?
So the one that you saw in the photo is actually going away. That's called the administrative lot. And so that part of the building will actually be on top of that parking lot. So the other parking lot that you probably see that looks freshly paved, it's right along Saratoga, and it's right behind that new brick sign. That's actually for our moving and recycling team. So we have quite a large operation of taking all of our refuse from the schools and our recycling from all of the different buildings, and that will be part of, that's also where we have our box trucks, and we take all of, just different large equipment away from, so that lot will actually be for our operations team on campus.
But the availability of parking on that part of the campus?
On that lot?
No, in just the north part of campus.
Oh, yeah. So there's the Saratoga garage, there's Lexington garage, there's lots of different parking garages that are very close by. And so there's ample parking for anybody who is visiting or taking class or working within the new building.
And even more parking than what we currently have here in this building.
Yes.
With the across the street lot, the Plaza garage, as well as the Grand garage, because there's limited space in those 2 places. So there's actually more space on the north end of campus.
Yes, yes.
So I was asking more so for like loading or unloading for like catering, or if we need heavy textbooks or anything like that.
Yes, there's definitely a loading area and a loading back door. So when we talked about 4 entrances, there's the main door, there's the one at Pearl Street, there's the EVS suite door on the side of, and then there's also the back entrance for large equipment, trash, catering, and things like that. Yes.
And they'll have easy access to the loading, the freight elevator to go up. So that's all on the back side of the building to get access to catering trucks and things like that we would need. They don't have to park like they do now, which block traffic in the front.
I want to thank you all for your time and engagement today and learning about the project. I know that we'll probably send out the project website for you all to stay engaged throughout the process.
Thank you.
Thank you.